That hymn was written in 1758 by a 19-year-old. A 19-year-old who, by his own account, had spent most of his teenage years gambling, drinking, and running with what his biographers politely call bad company. And yet somehow, out of all of that, he wrote one of the most beloved hymns in the English language. Welcome to Pull All the Stops. I'm Jillian Gardner. This is Hymn of the Week, and this week we're talking about Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Robert Robinson was born in 1735 in Swaffham, Norfolk, England. His father died when he was 8 years old, and his mother, unable to care for him financially, sent him to London at 14 to be apprenticed to a hairdresser. London in the 1740s was not a gentle place for a 14-year-old boy on his own. Robinson fell in with a rough crowd. He was, by his own later description, thoroughly desolate. Gambling, drinking, getting into trouble. Not the profile you'd expect from a future hymn writer. But then something happened that changed everything. In 1752, when Robinson was 17, he and a group of friends went to a revival meeting, apparently intending to mock it. The preacher was George Whitefield, one of the most powerful evangelists of the 18th century. Robinson went to laugh. He stayed to listen. He didn't convert immediately. It took another couple of years. But Whitefield's preaching lodged in him like a splinter, and he couldn't get it out. By 1755, at the age of 20, Robinson had become a committed Christian. He began preaching himself, and by the time he was in his mid-20s, he was the pastor of a Baptist congregation in Cambridge. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, at 19 years old, he wrote, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. The hymn has 3 verses, and each one is doing something different. The first verse is praise, pure, direct, overflowing. Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, tune my heart to sing Thy grace. That image, tuning the heart like an instrument, is one of the most beautiful in all of hymnody. Robinson was 19. He wrote that line at 19. The second verse moves into testimony, personal, historical, grateful. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I'm come. Now, Ebenezer. If you have ever sung this hymn and quietly wondered what on earth an Ebenezer is, you are not alone. It is genuinely one of the most confusing lines in all of Protestant hymnody, and it has caused a lot of people to either mumble through it or quietly substitute something else. Ebenezer is a Hebrew word. It means stone of help. It comes from a story in 1 Samuel chapter 7. After a military victory, the prophet Samuel sets up a stone and names it Ebenezer, a memorial, a marker that says, here, in this place, God helped us. So when Robinson writes, here I raise my Ebenezer, he is saying, I am setting up a memorial stone. I am marking this moment. I am acknowledging that everything I have, everything I am, is because God helped me get here. For a young man who had spent his teenage years going off the rails and had only recently found his footing, that line is not abstract theology. That is autobiography. That is Robinson looking at his own life and saying, here is the marker. Here is where things turned. The third verse is where the hymn gets complicated and honest. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. That is one of the most searing, honest lines in all of hymnody. Robinson is not writing from a place of triumphant certainty. He is writing from a place of self-knowledge. He knows his own weakness. He knows his own tendency to drift, and he is asking, in the middle of a hymn of praise, for help with exactly that. He was right to ask. Because here's the part of Robert Robinson's story that most people don't know. In his later years, his 30s, 40s, Robinson drifted. Not dramatically, not scandalously, but he drifted. He moved away from his Baptist roots towards more liberal theology. He became associated with Unitarian ideas that were deeply controversial in his time. His relationship with Orthodox Christianity became complicated, uncertain. There is a story, and it may be untrue, but it's too good not to tell, that later in his life, Robinson was traveling by coach and fell into conversation with a fellow passenger. The passenger was a woman who was reading a book of hymns. She pointed to one she found particularly moving and asked Robinson what he thought of it. It was, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Robinson looked at it for a moment, and he said, Madame, I am the poor, unhappy man who wrote that hymn many years ago, and I would give 1,000 worlds, if I had them, to enjoy the feelings I had then. Whether that story is literally true or not, it captures something real. Robinson lived long enough to feel the weight of his own third verse, prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. He wasn't writing a warning for other people, he was writing a confession about himself. And yet, the hymn endures. Not despite the story, but almost because of it. A hymn written by someone who knew his own weakness, who asked for help holding on to what he loved. That is a hymn that speaks to every human being who has ever felt the same thing, which is all of us. The tune most commonly associated with this text is called Nettleton, named after the American evangelist Ashatel Nettleton, who popularized it during the early 19th century. It is a folk-like flowing tune, warm, singable, unpretentious. What I love about Nettleton on the organ is how naturally it breathes. It doesn't demand the grandeur of Ein feste Burg or the drama of the toccata and fugue. It asks for something warmer, a gentler registration, more singing tone, less weight. It wants to feel like a conversation, not a proclamation, which suits Robinson's text perfectly. That is not a hymn of triumph. It is a hymn of honest longing, and the tune knows that. Let me play it for you. Come Thou Fount disappeared from many hymnals in the 19th century and early 20th century. It was considered old-fashioned, too folk-like, insufficiently dignified for formal worship. It came back. Of course it came back, because people kept singing it anyway. In revival meetings, in small churches, in private, you cannot keep a hymn this honest out of circulation forever. There is something in Prone to Wander, Lord, I Feel It, that speaks to something no amount of liturgical refinement can improve on. It is simply true, and people recognize truth when they hear it. Robinson wrote it at 19, struggled with it at 40, and couldn't escape it. Neither can we. Next Tuesday on Pull All the Stops, Composer of the Week. We're moving to the French Romantic tradition with César Franck, the man who almost single-handedly reinvented what the organ could do in the 19th century. His music sounds like nothing that came before it. We'll talk about why. Subscribe so you don't miss it. New videos every Tuesday and Friday. Leave me a comment. Did you know what an Ebenezer was before today? And had you heard the story about Robinson and the coach? I want to know. I'm Jillian Gardner. This is Pull All the Stops. See you Tuesday.